We need to understand quickly. We need to speed up this process for families, because my big goal, my big dream, if people are involved in the family and child welfare system, because they should be, that they get the information that they need quickly and then they get out. That's my big dream. That's my big hope for families. And I'm so excited to be a part of this, because although it feels simple, I know it's important, and I know it's a missing step that people have. We're going to provide people with information. People are going to have transformation, and people are going to have what they need so that they can navigate this system, they can get the support that they need, and then they can get out. Millions of families and professionals will touch the child welfare system this year alone, and it's the same every year. And this is the truth. Our system is complicated, it's confusing, and it's difficult to navigate. I'm your host, Shanelle Dupree, and this is Navigating Child Welfare. Because I don't know anyone who has navigated a system confused and has achieved the best possible outcome. And the outcomes are not just simple metrics. We're talking about families, we're talking about communities, and we're talking about impacting generations. So hug your loved ones a little bit tighter, and let's dive in to make connections, gain clarity, and navigate the child welfare system well. There is a song that I love called Big by Pastor Mike Jr., and it just talks about what is in front of you, what God has for you. It's going to be big, and it's from heaven. That's how I feel about thinking child welfare. It is going to be big. And when I say big, I'm not talking about nationwide necessarily. It is, but that's not what I'm talking about. Initially, what I'm talking about is the impact that it's going to have, how it's going to help people who are working in the family and child welfare system, how it is going to help and impact families who are involved in the family and child welfare system, and it's going to help volunteers, people who are helping within the family and child welfare system. And I say this because this is something that has been in my heart for years. I launched a program called CINC, C-I-N-C, which is named after the Child Native Care Code in Kansas 101 for parents. And I did that because I just saw how, when I was representing parents, how confused they were, how hard it was for them to navigate the system. And it wasn't until I realized I need to know more than my role as their attorney in court. Like, I need to understand, how can they successfully interact with the social service system? If there's a criminal case that's attached to this, how do we navigate that as well? How do I make sure that when they're trying to find all these resources that it says they have to find through their case plan tasks, that we can make sure that that is done, because this impacts their reintegration plan? How can we make sure that they have visit, like all these different things, all these different pieces? And so I understood very quickly that in order to be a true advocate and to be helpful, quite frankly, and to represent my client in a way that they fully deserved, I needed to understand the different systems that were at play. And so I see this big picture, and I saw that depending upon who people had, sometimes they got the information and sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they got with an attorney who felt like they just needed to fight, and not guide, direct, counsel, and advocate for their client in a way that would make sense, and in a way that lessened their time in the foster care system. So that's my goal. My goal is to, how do we understand quickly? How do we get what we need? And how do we exit this system? Because this is a system, this is not a family. My vision is big. My vision is beyond a class. Now, I did that, like I said, I did it for about 4 or 5 years, where I went to the judges and I said, hey, I want to teach this class to help parents to navigate the foster care system. I want to talk to them about what to expect in court. I want to talk about what these definitions mean. I want to talk about how the state can come in and remove your child. What are the legal grounds for that? Because that was always one of the questions. I want to talk about how to successfully work with your case manager. I want to talk about how you can increase your visit, like all of these different things. And they said, great, create it. And I felt it wasn't the same excitement. It's different this time. But I was so excited years ago when I was creating this and putting this all together and collaborating with other attorneys who provided valuable insight. And then also just looking at my 100 plus clients that I was representing. What are their pain points? What are the things that I always hear? What are the things that I need to say every time when I'm representing a client? And so Sync 101 Parents was born. And I remember I was in the basement of the courthouse. I was doing this at one of the largest counties in the state of Kansas, and the judges were ordering for parents to take this class. Parents would walk into this class irritated. They were like, one more thing that I have to do. And I tell everyone now, because I present and I talk and I do all types of things, I tell everyone, listen, I can talk in front of anybody, because if you can talk in front of a room full of people who are mad at you because they're there, you can talk in front of anyone. And they would start off irritated and upset and frustrated that it was one more thing that they had to do, but they would leave grateful. They would leave with like this renewed understanding and confidence and transformation that they can do this. And they had tools, they had questions that they could ask. They knew who to ask the right questions to. So it wasn't just another course to be another course. It was a course meant to directly answer their questions and then send them out into the world to figure out what they want to do, understanding that there's a time limit, that when you're a child in need of care court, when you're in the foster care system, you cannot play. Don't play. Listen, I said, don't play with these people. Okay. Figure out what you need to do and then do it quickly. And this is the truth. Some parents do not want to reintegrate with their children. But, no, it's true. Some parents, that's not what their goal is. And for me, it's stop wasting time then. If that's not what you're wanting to do, then take the necessary steps so that you can do something different for your child, for your family. And for some parents, that is absolutely what their goal is. They were just confused about how to get there. It just felt overwhelming. And so what I provided in this 1 hour class was a map. I provided a big picture. I provided the possibility that you can do this. I provided the insight and the reminder that thousands have done it before you. And you are empowered. You can be empowered in this system. And sometimes people don't do what they're supposed to do, but how can you still get your result that you need? And these are some ways that you can strategically do that. And so that happened for some years. And then when I became an administrator with the social service agency, I couldn't do this anymore because it was in a conflict of interest. And so I stopped teaching the class. But in that, being an administrator, I gained a whole other just perspective and insight into our federal system, into our state system, into how that connects with the court system. I gained so much insight into prevention services and why prevention is so important, and how prevention is the forgotten child of the family and child welfare system, that families don't have to be involved in the system if our prevention services are strong enough. I gained so much insight and understanding regarding equity and how there are families who are unnecessarily involved in the child welfare system. And what our research and data tells us is that it is based upon bias. It is based upon the color of their skin. And we have to be very aware of that and actively think about that and actively fight against that. There were so many different insights and tips and tools that I gained in my capacity as an administrator. And then moving into a nonprofit role where I really did focus on equity and inclusion, and how I say this all the time. I teach different classes at the university, at my law school, and one of the classes is regarding race in the law. And what I tell the students, and what I'll continue to say, is you wouldn't need this class if you would just integrate it into the regular curriculum. And so when I think about how equity and fairness and making sure people have what they need to thrive just needs to be integrated into what we do. It doesn't need to be a separate conversation. It needs to be a part of the conversation. It needs to be so intertwined that it's inseparable. And so these insights were gained. And as I look, and probably in August of this year, 2025, I just started running across all my old materials. I started looking at my surveys that I would have for parents to do. I have hundreds of surveys from parents who said the same thing. This was the best class I've ever taken. I wish I would have had this earlier in the process. This has helped me so much. I know how I can get my kids back, like all these different things. And it just reminded me of how impactful and how big this program was, and how much I loved it. I loved it. It was this weird labor of love. It really was. I would be exhausted going and teaching this class. At this time I had, let me see, this was 10 years ago. So I had a 3, 4, 5, and 6-year-old, my husband and I, and we were both practicing lawyers. I was in the courtroom all day. He was in the courtroom all day. So he did primarily criminal law. I was doing all child welfare cases, and also high conflict family law cases. So I was doing work. Right? We were busy all day long. His parents were watching our children during the day, and a couple, of course, were in school, and so I would come back to the courthouse where I would stay, and I would teach this course at like 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And it was hard. Like it was a hard thing to do. I had my little luggage. I had all my materials. I had my handouts. I had the PowerPoints. I was ready. And I would come in tired, and I would leave reinvigorated, remembering why I did this, why I created this, why God put this in me, that it helps people and that it provides people with hope and with tools to do that next thing that they need to do. But what was happening back then is I could never figure out how to get this out of the county. Like every single court is different. Every single county is different. And the way that I had structured it was very specific to that county and that community. And so technology wasn't where it was then as it is now. And so I just couldn't figure out, how do I take this outside of this courtroom? And then fast forward, I'm really pondering, really thinking, what is the thing? What is the next thing? What am I doing? What does 2026 look like for me? And God just kept dropping in my spirit the sync class. And he kept dropping it in, but it was like, he kept saying it's going to be different. Like, it's not going to be in the same way. It's not going to be the same structure. So I had to wait on, what is it going to be then? Like, if it's not going to be what I did before, how is it going to be different? And what I became very clear on is the big picture. I became very clear on, man, we do a lot of blaming and shaming in our family and child welfare system. We do a lot of, this person didn't do their job. This person, dropped the ball. This person, like a lot of that. And quite frankly, a lot of it falls on the agency, the social service agency that's responsible for case management. But this is what no one really talks about, that case management is hard. That working with families who have complex needs and dynamics is hard. It is probably one of the hardest jobs that you'll ever have. And people, when they do it by themselves, when they try to carry all of the weight, when they try to be the one, they will fail. And they will fail, and then they will quit, because you cannot sustain that level of pressure without support. And so, what became very clear to me is that I needed to build something that really showed what are the actual supports, what are the systems that exist in the family and child welfare system. And there's about 10 of them. There's 10 systems that coexist within the family and child welfare system. And the interesting thing is, some of those systems don't realize that they're a part of it. Like they don't think that they don't really know. They wouldn't say, I am a part of the family and child welfare system, but they are. They absolutely are. When we think about housing and transportation, it is so vital. It is always a thing in a foster care case. Housing and transportation. Where is this family going to live? How are they going to get there? What are the ways that we're going to do that? Employment. Do they have a job? Do they have a way to make income? How are they going to provide for their family? And so, how do we navigate that? And how do I, as someone who is responsible for bringing everyone together, how do I navigate that space? How do I create community? How do I create partnerships? And so, I decided I'm starting with an assessment. It's called the 360-degree partnership assessment. Do organizations partner well? Do they know how to partner? What is partnering to them? Who are they partnering well with within the family and child welfare ecosystem? And could they partner better? And a part of partnering, a part of working together, a part of collaborating is preparing for conflict. And I know that we don't do that well. Conflict can feel hard, conflict can feel messy, conflict can feel like unnecessary. But what we know is that conflict happens, and people who are able to work through it can build a stronger, better, and more stable relationship. Conflict does not signal the end of a partnership. It doesn't have to. You can still work with people. You can still understand what are the areas of conflict and how do we move past it? How do we still work together? Because everyone within the family and child welfare ecosystem will have different thoughts. They'll have different positions on how do we keep this family safe? How do we make sure this child has what they need? How do we make sure that this family can thrive? They're going to have different positionings on how to get there. People also have different ethics, and they also have different responsibilities. And if we don't understand that, and if we don't know how to navigate that, then we'll adopt this narrative of they don't care, right? They're not doing their job, when that may not be the case. It just may be that they have a different standard, they have a different perspective, and we haven't taken the time to get in a room and understand how we work together well. The other piece that I know and understand regarding the social service system is that there are different programs and initiatives that happen, and at times we don't do a really great job of bringing other people along with us. Programs created in isolation are typically not good, meaning if there is an input from the community, if someone hasn't said, we need this, we want this, we would use this, then you may have this amazing program that no one uses. The other piece of that is you may have an amazing program, but people don't know about it. They don't understand the thinking behind it, and they don't understand how they fit within it. And so there's a piece in the workshop that's about how do you partner well, and how do you share programs? How do you make sure that you're providing that information that needs to happen? And so that's just kind of an overview of what some of the workshop is going to be. It's going to be, how do you fit within the ecosystem? How do you prepare for partnership? And then how do you prepare for pushback? How do you prepare for conflict? The other piece that I know that is so vital and that is near and dear to my heart is making sure that families have the information that they need. That's why we are launching the 360-degree webinars. And the 360-degree webinars are going to be for parents who are involved in the family and child welfare system. It's going to be for foster parents and caregivers and kinship parents who are involved in the family and child welfare system. It's going to be for people who want to understand how to navigate court in the foster care system. It's going to be for people who want to understand Medicaid and the foster care system. And it's going to be for people who want to understand releases, so medical and mental health releases. That's like a whole thing within the family and child welfare system. And so we're launching these webinars, which is, again, reminiscent to kind of a throwback to my time when I taught the Child Native Care 101 course, but it's expanded. So it's the same, but it's different. And it's going to be for more people, so that they can get the information that they need. Because one of the things that's missing in the family and child welfare system is the ability to tell the story simply, is the ability to fill in the gaps, is the ability to just answer people's basic questions. Sometimes we're just so busy with needing to get that thing done. I need to fill out this form. I need to get this assessment done, that people are like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know who you are. I don't know how you fit in me getting my child back. And so it's like, it's taking a step back, and it's providing workers, really. It's providing people who work with families with the ability to say, hey, there's this webinar that you can watch. I can answer some of these basic questions. Watch this, then come back to me and let's have a more informed conversation. Parents, foster parents are going to be empowered. They're going to understand where their power is. They're going to understand who they need to talk to. They're going to understand who these people are that are in their lives. And they're going to understand that there's a timeline. We need to understand quickly. We need to speed up this process for families, because my big goal, my big dream, if people are involved in the family and child welfare system, because they should be, that they get the information that they need quickly and then they get out. That's my big dream. That's my big hope for families. And I'm so excited to be a part of this, because although it feels simple, I know it's important, and I know it's a missing step that people have. We're going to provide people with information. People are going to have transformation, and people are going to have what they need so that they can navigate this system, they can get the support that they need, and then they can get out. If you are interested in doing something different, learning about a way to build partnerships, navigate conflict, and build trust, you are officially invited to a session that I am having to share details of the new Sinking Child Welfare Program on Wednesday, January 7th at 9 a.m. Central Time and Thursday, January 8th at 4 p.m. Central Time. Pick one of the sessions to join and learn more. I'll also include a link to sign up to our newsletter. This will all be in the show notes. I'm so excited about launching a solution in 2026, and I can't wait for you to join me.